What is up guys, Wraec here with a new video, and today again with another video with recommendations for the post-hotfix Ravaged run. So once again there were some changes to the teams and I thought we will show them off. I have to say, my last video we were pretty sure about the best team because we absolutely destroyed everything. Today there is a fair bit of uncertainty. There is a fair bit of uncertainty in everything, really, and I feel like, I don't know, nobody really knows what the best team is. So we're going to look at a few teams, going to show you the team with the highest damage that I found. And of course, we're going to start off with the team that I chose at the end. I once again used all of my 20 hits right there. Always try to do that actually, and then it never feels like it's enough. Actually in total this was the final one, the one where I did the most damage. You can see mainly carried by Talene and Viperion. A little bit of regret on the Viperion, but we're going to talk about that in a second. And second team we have the Hodgkin, Sessia and Carolina comp that we have been using actually since in my last tutorial as well. The first team is a little bit different, last team not so much. This is the formation that we have right here, and it is pretty similar to actually the highest scoring team that I saw today. We're going to talk about this in a second. And then the second comp as used. As we are used to, and then let's see at least the first fight. Second fight is not that spectacular. Last time around I didn't use Viperion. Viperion is very great for two reasons. One being that he deals a ton of damage, and the second one, he looks good while doing it. And well, I mean, why you shouldn't take the second one too serious. I mean, we have a spectacular skin for him, so why not use him in this? He is also the best option, so it's not like we just use him for fun there. We're using him for damage. But he looks particularly cool while doing it. So it is an added bonus we take it. We once again have a Talene in there. It is furthermore still recommended to go ahead and use one copy of Talene if you have only a single copy. Because that is still a fairly great way to deal damage to this boss. Yeah. Still struggling with the second set of tentacles, I have to say. Like, those became a whole lot more tanky. If there was one thing that really changed about this boss, then really those tentacles and the second set of it in detail. We see Sylvina struggling a little bit to stay alive here. It is a little bit of a discussion around her, but she felt worth it, granted that she deals a ton of damage right there. So, that being said, what was the top team? Top team right there. Low resolution for extra damage. Place one, as you can see, 122 billion. And if you didn't see it right before, we were at 114 billion on my own fight. So quite the difference right there. So here we are working with a little bit more. This was done by Faker, who has an insane team, and we can see that actually in the second screenshot. We can see Paragon 4 right there. If you don't know the color, I haven't seen it on my account myself. This is the Paragon 4 blue. Of course, many players by now have it. I have to say, I see it so often now that I kind of feel like my account isn't whaley enough. But we see big damage there from the Talene. Big damage also from the Viperion. Viperion did quite a bit more, and he is using Nero. And Nero is a bit of a discussion. Like, the thing is with Nero, personally, I have to say I don't see the point. I don't see the point. Because this is the setup that he used. And if we compare that, that is pretty much the same that I did. The only difference was I tested this, and Nero actually didn't do too well for me. Granted, I don't have the charms on him, but I quickly thought I would just replace him with Sylvina. I would be absolutely curious to see if Faker could even top his damage if you were to replace that Nero with Sylvina. But I'm not sure. Like, for me personally, Sylvina worked a little bit better. I saw some teams with Salazar. I saw some people attempting with Salazar, like the same team, and just instead of Nero using Salazar, and it was also quite successful. Personally, for me, it was really the Sylvina comp, but we have to give it a little bit, well, we have to be a little bit fair with this. Because while I did compare to Salazar, we can already see +5 with Supreme Plus, no charm set on here, and for Nero, I mean, we have a little bit more use on that Nero, well, if I could find him. Oh my god, I'm blind. We have a Paragon 2 Nero, it's also +5 and also no charm set. And we're comparing all of that to Sylvina with a nice charm set, also +5 Paragon 2 and with a beautiful skin, which of course is a ton of extra damage, definitely. No, it's not, but it looks good. So at least the comparison to the Salazar might do better for you if you have a little bit more investment in him, or if at least if your Sylvina in terms of investment is a little bit closer to your Salazar, as it is the case on my account. And that might decide whether you go for a team like this, or whether it is at least worth trying to replace that Nero with Salazar or with Sylvina. And one thing to note though, if your heroes are particularly squishy, then the Nero is kind of good, because he has heal, he has his revive ability, and that can become an asset. On my side though, I have to say my heroes pretty much survived to the end. We saw it in the fight that my Sylvina died on like the last second, which I mean doesn't really matter in terms of DPS. So yeah, I think like I don't really need another healer for my team, so I could add a damage dealer, but it depends on your account really. Okay, that we already looked at. As you can see, the damage 3.3 billion there. I got like a 4.5 with Sylvina, so it can make a difference. Second team, oh, Paragon 3, my god, what happened there? But we see the huge damage there. Cessia versus Carolina. I tried switching the positions around, because of course he's using it like this, feeding the energy into the Carolina, and I read a little bit that some people had more success actually feeding the energy with Resonating Spell to the Cessia. I couldn't confirm that. I have to say my Carolina just outright did more damage. This team is not really... Well, it is the optimal thing that you can do from all I've seen, those three heroes together, but I certainly saw some different compositions as well that were pretty effective. So for example, if we go to the shared compositions, the shared teams on my server, we find, for example, the team here by Javuz, who used Igor instead. And I mean, Igor certainly did a whole lot less damage, but nonetheless, the survivability and, well, the functionality of his Carolina and Cessia seem unimpacted, so you can go ahead and you can use Igor in there. Also an option, and we covered that while we looked at Metal's infographic in the last video. If you don't use Nero on your first team, of course, you can use him in the second one. That is more than possible. So another option maybe if you don't have an Igor or don't want to use the Igor, you can put the Nero in here, and it is an option for you to do that as well. So that being said, can scroll a little bit down here, but pretty much many people seem to have copied that lineup that Javuz did there, so there's not too much more interesting things happening there. Options for the first team were quite interesting if we talk in terms of artifacts a little bit, because what pretty much established itself as a meta here was the arcane spell, mainly because it has such a huge debuff to the magic defense of the enemy, and this of course works very well together with Viperion and mainly of course Talene. So Talene can do a whole lot more damage, and so the investment into this arcane spell and going for a little bit more damage seems to be quite a thing that you really want to. And don't be worried, by the way, we are going to talk about some options to those teams so that you can work a little bit around not owning certain heroes. So other options that were used that we saw were like Frontline Spell. Frontline Spell I think was the initial one that I used. It works pretty well. Keep in mind it doesn't work with all the heroes. You get like the permanent shield, but what you really want to activate is then 3 different heroes have entered the enemy side of the battlefield. This already fails if you have 3 ranged heroes. So if 3 of your heroes don't enter the enemy battlefield, you run only 5, then this will already not work, and then you don't get the Banner of Inspiration, and then at that point it's not worth using Frontline Spell. At which point some people experimented with Burden Spell, but then again, it gets completely outclassed by Arcane Spell, so Arcane Spell for the first team seems to be the meta, and most of the time, if we have the option to choose Resonating Spell and have it still available, it goes to the second team, so Arcane Spell, Resonating Spell being your perfect combination right there. And then I want to go into a little bit of a detail on the Viperion charms, and in fact Faker also mentioned it. There is a little bit of a discussion going on between the Inside set and the sorcery set. And I went for the Insight set because it was a little bit cheaper and I could afford it, and I couldn't afford the sorcery set once again. And sorcery set, obviously, at its ultimate power and skill power, it is more damage than HP skill power, which is the recommended one for him. So, overall, if you can afford it and if your heroes can survive, sorcery is certainly more damage, while Insight might give you a little bit more consistency. So keep that in mind when using it. I personally went with Insight. It worked fairly decently. Also, I stole this early version of Metal's infographic. Sorry, bro. He posted it, but it is, the thing is, it is not done, but it already shows you the teams, which is like the important thing. We saw this team, this is like the Faker team, and there was a little bit of a meta around the Scalita teams, but I haven't really seen too much insane stuff with them, I'll be honest. So there is the option to go with that. Like we see the positioning here, Nero being replaced by Scalita on this last team, and the first one still being apparently a little bit stronger, which is a bit weird. Scalita is not doing that insane of damage, I have to say. I tried a little bit, didn't work out too well for me. Salazar is certainly interesting though. I don't think he out damages like the combination of Talene and Viperion, but it's still an interesting choice if you don't own Viperion. But this can happen. I mean, some major fail investment is also on my account in that department because my Nero is Paragon 2, and I certainly would rather have a Viperion or a Salazar Paragon 2, I'll be honest with you guys. But maybe you have one of those heroes. And in general, I feel like the choice whether you go for Salazar, Scalita or Sylvina really depends on your investment into the specific heroes. I think either one can be the top choice if there is a sufficient distance to the investment of the rest of your heroes. So that I think can be the case. Nero is also, well, a choice in terms of damage, but also most of the time the added survivability is really what you're looking for in that sense. And here we also have the artifacts as described before. So, that being said, I hope you enjoyed this. I will once again link you the charm guide down below. This is still pretty good, even though there are some things that Daragon or Resetti wanted to change. We were kind of confused about the Dianel charms in my last video, and I kind of talked to him and he said, oh, he will look into it. So, there are some things he's looking into it, but this is still probably the best and easiest way to find out whether your charms are good, and with a bit of thought you will come to the right conclusions, I'm sure. And other than that, well, I hope you subscribe to this channel, and with that I wish you a great day. We'll see us in the next one.